Hey adventurers, so today is a little bit different video than I've ever done before. It's a kind of a video review, or a movie review, and also kind of a rant video, so two things that I've never done. This is for The Green Knight, as you can see in the thumbnail, and I watched this video when I'm filming this last night. When you're watching this, who knows when it'll be. I'm putting it up 3 days after I have watched the movie. So I watched it, and the best way I can describe my feelings towards this movie is it's the most gorgeous disappointment I've ever watched. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not going to really do a whole lot in terms of reviewing it like I would a book or anything, because I'm not sure what I want to say at the moment. So I'm just going to kind of talk through my thoughts a little bit and see what happens. My experience watching it, though, is I went into the movie with an open mind, knowing it probably wasn't going to be exactly like the book. I'm okay with that. There's lots of times when an adaptation doesn't need to be exactly like the book. So I went into it with that mindset of it's probably not going to be the same as the book, let's just see what it is. As I was watching it, I went into it and it started out and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, I wonder what they're doing. And then that starting out moved in a little bit and I was like, okay, let's see what happens from here. And it gets to the challenge, the game with where the Green Knight comes in, and things are already drastically different from the book, which again I was like, okay, we'll see, this may be okay and we'll see what happens. I didn't mind it, it wasn't okay, I didn't love everything that I was seeing, but I also didn't hate it at the moment. So I was watching it and the movie continued on, and I went from sitting in a chair like I would in any other movie, kind of excited to be in the theater, kind of excited to be watching a movie, hopeful that this movie was going to be great. And then by the end, as I was walking, it just kind of, my body posture just kind of got lower and lower and slumped, and my face was just kind of, what are you doing type thing throughout the whole movie as they kept going. At the end of the movie, the theater collectively, almost every single person in the theater had a seriously or a that's it type response to how it ended, and it was obvious that some of the people had read the book, and it was obvious that some of the people hadn't read the book, but we were throughout the whole thing, or at the end of the movie, I was just sitting there kind of in shock, like, what did I just watch? How is this based on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight? So that was my kind of experiences with watching the movie. I came out of the theater and just sat in my truck and was thinking about it. I was like, I don't even know what they did. If you would have asked me last night if I thought this was a good movie, I'd have said no. I don't think it was a good movie at all. Today now, I am confused. I honestly don't know if it was a good movie and a bad adaptation, or just a bad movie in general. I am leaning a little bit towards that it was just a bad movie, or it wasn't for me, and that part I know for sure it was not for me. But I also don't know if it was actually, I can't separate the, oh my goodness, this is a horrible adaptation from I can't, if looking on this objectively, is this a good movie? I can't quite separate those two in my mind yet, and I'm definitely leaning towards no, it's not that good of a movie. Hey, so I'm sitting here editing my review for The Green Knight, and I realized that I forgot to say a couple things, so there may be a couple of these inserts like this. But one of the things that I forgot to mention is that I may rewatch this movie. I may decide that I want to go watch it again and see if my opinions are a little bit different, see if I can maybe pick out what it was that I didn't like about the movie, or something along those lines. I don't know what's going to happen yet, but there's a chance that I could rewatch this movie. I'm definitely not opposed to doing that. It wasn't so, like, horrible that I would never want to rewatch it again. I would rewatch it to figure out what it was that I didn't like, or see if on rewatching I could come about to where I liked it. So we'll see what happens with that. I may or may not ever rewatch it, but I just wanted to say that. I have not watched any other reviews or listened to any other reviews other than I have talked to Himvar, or Liam from Liam's Lyceum. I've talked to him a little bit about this book, or about this movie, just to get some other people's thoughts. Let's go into the things that I liked about this movie. There was some great things about this movie. There was the cinematography of one of the most beautiful movies I have ever watched. I've not watched a ton of movies, but I've watched a fair amount, and I've gotten more and more into them. I'm a storyteller at heart. That's what I am. I'm not specifically an actor or a writer or a musician or anything. So all of these things combine to make me a storyteller. That's who I am, and so I am looking at these different ways to tell the story. I feel like the actors were fine in terms of their acting, and I felt like the cinematography was like some of the most beautiful cinematography I have ever seen, maybe the most beautiful cinematography I've ever seen. So that's a very, very high point. And then the cast, half of the cast was great. I loved Dev Patel in his role as Gawain, or Garwin, depending on who was saying the name. I loved Dev Patel in his role. I loved Joel Edgerton in his role. He exactly what I imagined when reading the book, his character. Half of Alicia Vikander's role I really liked. I thought I thought her portrayal was really good in it. I didn't care for the role, but I thought her portrayal was really good. And then Erin Kellyman, who is playing a role that is not in the book, but I love seeing Erin Kellyman getting a chance to act. I loved her in Solo, A Star Wars Story, which she didn't have a huge role, but I was like, okay, she's going to have a good career if she keeps up with these types of, or not these types as big blockbusters, but these types of roles where they're unique and an interesting character. And then I liked her portrayal in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I didn't love the character, but then I was like still thinking, okay, she's going to be really good if she continues, and I thought she was really good in this too. Very interesting. I also thought that the costume design for this movie was great. I thought that side of things, or really set and costume design, was phenomenal and looked absolutely amazing. I also, one of the things regarding cinematography that I really liked was how they lingered on certain shots for longer than would have been acceptable in a different type of movie. So I did really like that too. So those 4 cast members I thought were great. I didn't like who they cast for the king, and I didn't like who they for Arthur, and I didn't like who they cast for Guinevere. That's really what I didn't like. I didn't think they were fitting for the roles. For the roles in the movies, they were fitting, but not for roles of adapting this book. So that's my thoughts for the high points and the low points. There was a lot of confusing stuff in this story, in this movie. Some of it was fine, some of it was very different. One of the things that I came out of the movie, in the movie I was like, that's interesting, I guess that kind of makes sense. And then as it went on, it got less and less, and today I was talking to some other people and I was like, what is this? This isn't right, is it? With the rest of the lore for King Arthur. And it sounds like I'm in the right. I know enough of my King Arthur without having read a ton of it to know that no, they changed some things there. So my brain was kind of, I didn't like some of the changes that they made. There was a lot of really confusing stuff. Some of the confusing stuff was done for cinema reasons, to be cinematic and beautiful, and it worked. And some of it was just, this doesn't make sense, and it's not supposed to not make sense. It just straight up doesn't. So I'm not entirely sure what was going on there. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I can't honestly tell if this is a good movie and a bad did I mention it earlier? I don't know. I can't tell if it's a good movie and a bad adaptation or just a bad movie. The reason why I say it like that is because I like the Hobbit movies. They are horrible adaptations. Even Lord of the Rings is a bad adaptation. But I like the Hobbit movies. I enjoy watching them. They're fun. They still capture a little bit of the essence of the Hobbit. And so I enjoy watching those movies, even though I would say that they're good movies, but bad adaptations. Whereas this one I can't tell. Okay, one other thing that I did like about the movie is it did feel like it had a very similar feel to the way it was shot, the way it was filmed did make me feel like the book. But overall, there were things that they either misinterpreted or completely reinterpreted, which is kind of how the whole thing went. I didn't like Gawain's character. I thought it was not done well. I thought it definitely wasn't the same character as in the book. So I didn't like Gawain's character, even though I thought Dev Patel did great in the role. So they misinterpreted or they reinterpreted everything, and I didn't like that. Either these are kind of the thoughts that came to my mind as I was thinking about this. Either Tolkien mistranslated the original, or else David Lowery did not understand the translations. That's kind of the feel that I got from the movie. I'm pretty sure I can say that Tolkien did not mistranslate the original text. So That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know David Lowery, I don't know I've never watched any other movies of his, I don't believe. No, that's not true. I think I've watched Pete's Dragon. I think that one was his. But anyways, so I'm not sure what to think of this movie at the moment. Okay, the other thing that I didn't like was, and this is not so much, I'm trying to stay spoiler free, which is why I haven't mentioned, I vaguely alluded to it, some of the differences that I was pretty sure I knew in other King Arthur stories, and then in this movie they were drastically different. So I alluded to that one. I'm not going to say what it was. If you want to know, send me a message and I'll let you know. I'm not worried about that. I just don't want to spoil things for people who are interested in watching a movie. But this part is not so much a spoiler. It is kind of, but not really. So I'm going to say it, and that is that they left out the end of the story. In this story, there's a specific ending. There's a way that the book ends, and they left it out. They kind of did it. They told it very differently. It was very unsatisfactory, and one of the things that they did was completely removed who the Green Knight was under the enchantment. Like, they never talked about who that was. They briefly mentioned it, not enough to really understand what was going on. So I didn't like that. There was quite a bit about it that I didn't like. I think this is going to be one that everybody has to watch and decide for themselves whether it's a good movie or a bad movie, whether they like it or whether they don't. I didn't like it. I think right now my rating would be a 3 out of 10. That is 2 for the cinematography, which was gorgeous, and then 1 for the cast. I would give it 2, except only half the cast was good, so only half the cast I can only give it half a point for the cast. So or I can only give it 1 point for the cast rather than 2. So that's kind of my thoughts on this movie. I'm hoping this has stayed pretty short. Wanted to get my thoughts out so I could actually talk about it. We'll see how horrible this is to edit. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that maybe it helped you either process your thoughts on the video or on the movie, or else helped you decide whether you want to watch it or not. Please like and comment down below. We will see you guys again next time. Stay.